What if Babel wasn't really about bricks and mortar? What if it was about the ancient struggle for control, the obsession of humanity to build empires where God's name is silenced and man's name is exalted? See, that's the real thing. That's the real thing. What do we know? Right? We read the Bible. We try to figure it out. Sometimes we don't put the level into it that we really should. And sometimes we give it our very best. It's hard to say. Only you can accept for yourself the truth as it relates to yourself, your own how you do it. Your own Bible study, your own search for truth. Where you search, who you listen to. What if, we've all heard the story, the Tower of Babel. Right? We focus on that. It's what we've been taught all this time. And we think that's what it's all about. But what if? What if the Tower of Babel, what if Babel wasn't really about bricks and mortar? What if it was about the ancient struggle for control? The obsession of humanity to build empires where God's name is silenced and man's name is exalted. Genesis 11. Okay, we're back to our series. By the way, my very deep sympathies, condolences to Body's family. That was a shocking loss. Stunning. We didn't expect it. I didn't know anything. I didn't know, what. I knew he'd had a heart attack and all that some time back, but yeah. And he had a medical emergency and he died. So we've lost another one, another great one. And he would tell you, and he and I didn't agree on everything. We weren't friends. We weren't buddies. There was no animus or dislike. We just were different. But you see, that's what I'm always saying is we cannot bark at each other all the time when we have differences. We just can't do it. We got to stop barking at each other anytime we disagree on something. We agreed on more than we disagreed. Always pleasantly. He's just a different different sort of dude, different sort of mindset, different theology. Well, I wouldn't say different. Yeah, to some degree. Mine was ancient Near Eastern and Hebraic worldview, context, language, the ancient Near Eastern language, culture, and context. That is mine. And when I die, whenever that may be, when I die, on the 23rd, we celebrated my 60th, if you can believe that, my 60th birthday. I wasn't supposed to make it past 47, according to doctors, then and since. And I'm not, saying, but I'm saying thank God. I don't know why God preserves me, but one day he won't. And one day this microphone will fall silent. And it's not about me. It's not about establishing. I can tell you, I'm going to be preaching, if the weather holds out, I'll be preaching at Virginia Creek Campground this Sunday, I think we get started at 9:30. Pastor Wright says 9:30. Yes, Virginia Creek Campground Chapel in Surf City, North Carolina. Wonderful bunch of people, just lovely bunch of people. So we have 2 hurricanes bearing down on us, and if the models that everyone fears happen, well, I don't know so much that we're going to be. We may be buttoning up. We may not be. By the way, how's the sound? How's the video? All right. Doing some different things. We had to totally recreate this episode. As you might know, you had different links and all that. And I apologize for that. It was a network glitch, and lots and lots of stuff going on. We were declined again, by the way. We were declined again to promote or advertise one of our episodes, and YouTube, Google, said no. The Alphabet company said no. So I keep paying for ads, and they keep saying no. So we just keep trying to redirect. So who knows? It is what it is. We'll keep on fighting. We're not going to give up. So what I'm meaning to say is that one day this microphone, there won't be a video, there won't be sound. Not that it'll be some great loss to the world. But I know this. There was a time before I got hurt real bad, and I was humbled by God. And the reason I brought that up was because I'm going to give a little bit of my testimony before the message on Sunday at the Virginia Creek Campground Chapel in Surf City, North Carolina, provided the weather, because I don't know if you live on the coast, especially right in North Carolina and South Carolina, we really get nailed. Just how they come around, we just get pummeled. Florida, unfortunately, good lands. Man, they have taken a beating. So, here, church may end up getting canceled. I don't think so. But church may end up getting canceled saying, hey, we gotta prepare. Looks like it's going to happen. We should know by Sunday more of what's going to happen. But Monday and Tuesday, there's 2 hurricanes right near each other, and they're bearing down hard on us. So who knows? We don't know. But anyway. The microphone will grow silent. This will end. All this you can listen free anytime you want. But here's the thing. There was a time before I got hurt, before I was humbled, where, I was building a tower. It's the Tower of Babel, but it was a tower. I don't think that I was so full of myself that, I was focusing everything on that. But I will say this, that, speaking multiple languages fluently and having the memory that I had, the recall, to be able to articulate things quickly, to think very quickly, to multitask on several different, platforms, but then be focused. All of that was, I took it for granted. I didn't appreciate it the way that I should have. I built a tower. I didn't know it, but I did. Only by losing all of that did I come to realize, hey, you know what? We got a problem here. In Genesis 11, it's not a children's tale. It's taught as a children's tale, obviously. But it's not a children's tale on flannel graph about a half-finished tower. It's the seed of every empire, every idol, every rebellion against the living God. And it is also the soil from which God calls Abram through him, Messiah. The scattering of nations at Babel was not only judgment, it was mercy. It was God restraining human arrogance, slowing corruption, and making space for redemption. What began in rebellion becomes the stage upon which God unfolds his covenant plan to bless the nations through one man, one family, and one Messiah. Now, someone just asked the question, and I have another question that has been asked over and over and over, and I'm answering it. I'm going to answer it very clearly. But the message, the sermon on Sunday, if we're honored to deliver it at 9:30 a.m. at Virginia Creek Campground Chapel in Surf City, North Carolina, is the perilous times we live in, 2 Timothy 3, and really to some extent 4. I'm going to give my testimony first, and then we're going to do that, but much shorter, much more compressed. But we'll also have it will not be televised. It'll be on their system. I don't know what their website is or any of those things, but I know they video them and they do audio, but I don't know much more about it than that. But I do know this, perilous times. You remember on Monday at 7, I said, just this Monday at 7, when I did the consequences, the consequence culture, instead of cancel culture, consequence. I said, listen, they're not going to stop. The left's not going to stop. And a lot of people had pushback. Well, you can't really broad brush the left. It's not really fair to say the left because it's not all of them. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But here's the thing. They, the left, keep saying the terrible things that they're saying. And it keeps fanning the flames. Look, the nut jobs are the nut jobs. They're going to do what they're going to do. But they're certainly going to do it more vigorously and with more political support, silent though it may be, when you're calling the president Nazi and socialist and you're calling ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, and Customs and Border Patrol and Homeland Security and all this, you're calling them Gestapo and all these things. These are politicians, well educated. They know better. For them, it's about staying in power. It's not about caring for this country the way that we're supposed to do. For them, they don't care about that. Just power mad. They want to get back into power. They don't care if they have to destroy this country, just like New York City. Mamdani, this guy Mamdani, he's a communist. He's nothing but a communist. He's a rich communist, which is usually how they are, but he's a communist. He's most likely going to win unless some big thing happens in between now and then. But certainly against the way they run their elections in New York is insane. New York City, the more conservative vote is going to be split. And there's not a chance of any of them individually winning. And look who you have running. I don't think Curtis Lee was a bad guy. I think he's a good guy. But there's not a chance in the world he'll be elected mayor. And the people of New York, you get what you deserve. You get what you ask for. Get what you vote for. You vote for that. That's what you want. Okay, fair enough. But I said Monday night at 7, I said, you see, this will happen. They'll keep doing it. This time the guy he murdered and murdered, I think, 1 or 2 of the very people he was supposedly protesting. It's an assassin, just firing indiscriminately into a van. And he killed, I think, 2 now. I think I heard 2 have died. And you might say, well, if they hadn't been in that van, they wouldn't have been killed. Well, isn't that interesting how the immigration, the ICE people, they survived, but mysteriously, the other ones were shot. The prisoners were shot. Look, all I can tell you is watch the video. Watch it in full. That's the real one. Don't watch the stupid ones. I talked about this on Monday too. Folks, stop watching those. It always comes out now. They've got a guy with a weird device, an assassin's little pistol that is, the guy in the brown shirt. Watch. He's the one that actually killed Charlie Kirk. Come on. Stop that. It's just insanity. And as I said on Monday, listen to that episode, Consequence Culture. It's from Monday. All of them are free. TrueWordFaithForLife.com, TrueWordFaithForLife.com, or on the True Word Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn channels on Rumble or YouTube. Sign up for them both, but especially Rumble. I'd love for you to sign up for them both. It's free to do both. Click on the little every notification deal. Click on the thumbs up. You think it doesn't matter, but it does. And until you all start doing it en masse, this is where we stay. And if you think other people need to hear this message, the only way they do it is if you share it. The only way they do it is if you do the things that make the algorithm work well. And to those of you who have clicked on subscribe and follow and clicked on the little bell and shared and all those things, God bless you. God bless you. I can't thank you enough. So tonight, we asked the question, are we still building Babels? I guess there's two questions. Are we still building Babels? Are we still making names for ourselves instead of lifting up his name? His Heavenly Father. By the way, if you don't know, this is True Word Faith for Life with Dr. Shawn. I'm a follower of the way. I'm a simple guy, follower of the way, theologian, and author. Not much more to it than that. So let's open the scriptures together. Oh, by the way, before we fire up this rocket, I invite you to visit, and it's free. You're not going to get asked for money. There's not going to be a bunch of weird pop-ups. TrueWordFaithForLife.com. TrueWordFaithForLife.com. Simple, simple, simple. TrueWordFaithForLife.com. That's where you can find my book, True Word Faith for Life. You can find bazillions of other free resources to help you walk faithfully as a disciple of Yeshua. And not for nothing, there's a study guide in there as well. Again, this Sunday at 3 p.m., I'm going to, look, if there's a big hurricane bearing down on us, we're going to have to be preparing our home and preparing to evacuate if there's evacuations. There's the water. We, as much as I love you guys, if we have to prepare, and it's going to take that, because I don't know if you know, I got this big heart monitor right here, and that's a new little addition. So, I have to pace myself real slow, and so it takes some time, and there's lots to do. But if it moves, barring all of that, this Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be live here for the next teaching in this series. I think I ended up 26. I love doing it, by the way. This is super fun. By the way, I want to say hey to Linda and Miss Glow, old Glow. You both have withstood an awful lot over the last while, and I have to tell you, you are a great witness, and we love you. We're praying for you, folks from our old Kehala that are in the middle of really difficult times. So, and all of you, I pray every day for all of you. And most of you that I know of your individual issues, I pray for you by name. By the way, you can send me prayer requests through the TrueWordFaithForLife.com contact page. You can also ask me questions. There's all kinds of things. I respond to them all the time. And you can do that. It's free. There's nobody that reads it but me. Nobody has access to it but me. What is it? Denise Farrow. What is what? If you tell me what you're asking about, what is it? Denise, if you tell me what you're asking about, I will be happy to tell you. And thank you, by the way, Denise, for listening on Facebook. So, and she's listening live, by the way. Denise Farrow. I love how you spell your name, by the way. That's awesome. I've never actually seen it like that, so it's really, really cool. So this Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be the next in this series. I hope that I get to do it. But at 9:30 on Sunday, I will be teaching live at the Virginia Creek Campground Chapel in Surf City. So if you're in the area, they'd love to have you. They're the nicest people you ever met in your life. Come see us. We'd love to meet you in person. If you happen to have my book, I will sign it live right then and there. And instantly your book will be worth half as soon as I sign it. So anyway, there's that. So the ancient Near Eastern context, what did the tower mean then? I think in order for us to understand, we have to establish, in order for us to understand what the tower means now, we have to really understand what it meant then. Because until we have the ancient Near Eastern context, look, we're just guessing. We're just spitballing. And that's kind of my specialty. Somebody asked me yesterday at the, you'll notice I have a thing here. The dermatologist froze off a thing. And we were chatting, and I was chatting to this other person that I bumped into. And how did she put it? She asked me, she happened to be a listener. She said, what is ancient Near Eastern? What is that? What is that ancient Near Eastern context? What do you mean by that? And quite simply, just so you can understand, I say it a lot. And so I want you to know. So we think of Middle East, right? We say Middle East, and geographically, yes, kind of we draw a big thing there. That's the Middle East. But the ancient Near East, these were the areas where Scripture happened. This is where the birth of the world happened. This is all of these things, these great and grand things that happened. This is, for the most part, where it happened. And there were different cultures and all of that, but there were also different languages. And so for me, the ancient Near Eastern languages, culture, and context refer to Hebrew, Aramaic, and Koine Greek, and all of the areas mentioned in Scripture. So there's that. So what did the tower mean then? Ziggurats and sacred space. In Mesopotamia, cities such as Ur, Uruk, and Babylon were crowned with massive ziggurats. These are step temple towers. Right? They weren't buildings per se. They weren't typically occupied in a lot of ways, but they were designed as stairways between heaven and earth. They weren't temples in and of themselves, but they were thought of as gateways, thought to be landing places for the gods, small g. And these priests would ascend to bring offerings, and gods were believed to descend to meet them and take the offerings. So Babel's tower was exactly this. It was a human attempt to establish a cosmic center of power, an axis mundi, without the permission or presence of the true God. As Dr. Michael Heiser explains, sacred space was always God's to define. Babel represents humanity's attempt to seize it on its own terms, to control heaven, rather than to submit to it. By the way, all of this is footnoted. I have all this, and that's available to you on truewordfaithforlife.com. Under the blog, you'll see it there. And then usually about 20 minutes to an hour afterwards, the audio will populate under the episodes. So, and it's free also. We don't track you. We don't do a bunch of stuff. First of all, I don't know how to do it. And second of all, I wouldn't do it if I did. I can barely make this happen. So, and this is a one-man show. I don't have a staff. It's just me. By the way, thank you for your likes and your heart that you folks have done. And thank you. Man, good afternoon. The Freight Train, my buddy. Good to have you, man. What a good dude. So making a name. Just so as a baseline, Babel represents humanity's attempt to seize it on its own terms. Sacred space was always God's to define, but Babel is really humanity's attempt to seize it on its own terms, to control heaven rather than submit to it. By the way, podcast puppy is sound asleep. If you hear snoring, he is literally right there, right over here. Reach about 1.5 foot more, and there he is. He's out, cold. So don't feel bad. If you fall asleep while I'm preaching and teaching, you aren't the first one. So making a name. The builders of Babel declared, let us make a name for ourselves, right? That's in Genesis 11:4. Let us make a name for ourselves. And in the ancient Near East, a name, or Shem, was more than a label. It represented authority, reputation, and really it represented legacy. Kings built monuments to inscribe their names into eternity. The builders of Babel were not simply seeking identity. They were claiming divinity, right? They were saying, hey, this is what and who I am. By the way, you guys can't see that, but the freight train, my buddy, is a meatitarian, and he's got a picture of looks like a T-bone steak, a box of eggs, maybe. I don't know what that little one was. 2 very large pieces of bacon, and then a cast iron frying pan with big old yolk eggs in there. So he's marked it up. Now I'm hungry. What about y'all, by the way? And how in the world did you, if you let me know how you came to hear about this program. I almost said, how you come to her. There's this group. Oh, Whosoever South. They're a Georgia group. They're deep Georgia now. Deep Georgia. Whosoever South. Look them up. They're a different kind of music. And it's music that you would never, ever think that old Dr. Shawn would ever like. But I do. Ooh, I do. And as soon as this is over, I put it right back on. I tell Alexa, because she's right over there listening. I say to her, PLAY, Whosoever South. And I got these little 20-year-old Bose speakers just ripping. Hey, man, an old podcast puppy, he'll wake up then. Anyway, they're awesome. You're going to love them. It's a black guy, the neatest dude. And this black guy and this couple, this white couple, they've been friends forever. Great musicians. They play incredible music. Their writing is amazing. Their musicianship is amazing, and their story is even greater. Whosoever South. They didn't pay me anything for that. They don't even know I'm saying it. But by the way, I would love to have them on the show. I think they'd be very fascinating to hear their story, how they came about. Anyway, it has nothing to do with this. So the builders of Babel, they weren't simply seeking identity. They were claiming divinity. And don't we do that sometimes, right? I said at the open of this show, and I don't know if you missed it, but, before I got hurt so bad, brain injury, spinal cord injury, massive cardiothoracic injury, massively injured. A bunch of damage to my face. You might be wondering why they didn't fix that. It's a joke grenade, but not really, because look at me. And there was so much I could do, and I could do it so easily without even thinking about it, without even trying. And much to the consternation of Miss Colleen, I will get on her nerves a little bit. I mean, let's be honest. So in sharp contrast, God tells Abram, only one chapter later in chapter 12 of Genesis, right? We're working our way through that. And by the way, if you don't know about this series that we're doing, it is connecting Genesis and Romans. I say it all the time. Look, you will never understand the New Testament until you understand the Old Testament and really understand it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Free of charge, no cost or obligation to you. You don't get a toaster. I don't get a toaster. I don't get anything. So I will make your name great. Genesis 12:2. Human pride strives to exalt its own name. Covenant humbly receives a name exalted by God. Pardon me. Let me get on up on the drink. That's just water. Controlling the divine. Don't we always try to do that? We do. We always try to do it. We always try to control God. We always try to recreate God in our own image. How's that working? Not well. Unlike the God of Israel, ancient Near Eastern The ancient Near East, the deities then, they were thought to be manipulated by ritual, sacrifice, and architecture. Right? We do a ritual enough in the right way, it'll influence the gods. If we make these sacrifices, it will influence the gods. Sometimes that was babies, literally. And maybe architecture. Look, if we build this great thing, like a ziggurat, which is a type of building per se, like a tower, if we build it a certain way, we build it out of certain things, we can influence the gods. Ziggurats were sorcery, really, in stone. Structures really meant to force heaven into man's agenda. Babel was absolute arrogance, but it was also spiritual manipulation. It was humanity's attempt to harness heaven. But then there's a divine council in the nations. Genesis 11 cannot be read in isolation. Deuteronomy 32, 8 through 9. Again, Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9 explains, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob, an allotted heritage. At Babel, God scatters the nations and delegates them to other divine beings, his council. Nations develop their own pantheons and idols, not by accident, but by divine reordering. Israel, however, is reserved for the Lord himself. This sets the stage for Abraham's calling and for Messiah's mission. Now, my buddy, Dr. David Friedman, Friedman, that's how you spell it, Friedman. We joke about being each other's brother from another mother. He's a great guy. Super accomplished. He has a #1 health and wellness show, I don't know, for a million years going in the United States, a health and wellness radio show. He is a many times best-selling author. He's won the equivalent of, and he doesn't know I'm saying this, he would be very embarrassed, but the equivalent of like an Oscar for authors. And he's won it for many, many books. And if you search him in wherever you buy books, you'll find just a world leader. He's an amazing guy. And he happens to be here near where I live. And he's very good at all the things that he does. But he tells me, he says, hey, listen, because I was asking him one day, I said, how do I grow? How do I grow? Good afternoon, Miss Clippers. Good to see you. I hope you enjoy your lunch break. Thank you for listening. That makes me feel good. I sure appreciate it. So I was saying to him, how do I make this thing grow? People are not, hundreds of people listen. They don't hit like. They like it because they tell me, but they don't hit like. And many of them are not subscribers. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand how do I get more people to listen? So outside the algorithm and all the things you have to do to manipulate the algorithm, he said, you've got to remember, it's what's in it for me. Everybody's favorite radio station is WIFM. What's in it for me? So what's in it for you? Modern significance. What Babel means today, pride, technology, and empire. Babel represents humanity's drive to secure greatness apart from God. Hey, I want to have greatness, but I don't want God to keep getting the credit for it. Today, we no longer stack bricks into towers, ziggurats, but we build empires of technology, digital networks, skyscrapers, and even artificial intelligence. I'm not against any of those things. I'm not against great wealth. I've said before, look, I have protected some of the world's greatest leaders. I've protected, billionaires, mega billionaires, and through executive protection team and my past life. And they've achieved so much, and there's buildings with their name on them all over the world. I think, man, oh man, that's quite an accomplishment. So I'm fascinated by it. I'm not enamored, but I'm fascinated. I'm not envious, but I'm fascinated. I'm interested. There's people who have invented things that have changed the world. Some of them are not good people. Some of them are. And some of them are people with hurts, habits, and hang-ups, just like you and me. The skyscrapers, we don't build them like we used to, right? We used to build churches, and they were beautiful. And like in a hurricane zone, you build a church differently, right? And this is the funny thing is I hear this from people around where I live that live in the hurricane zone. They say, I don't buy expensive furniture. I buy secondhand furniture. And many of these people are wealthy. I don't buy anything. I don't put anything in my house that I'm not willing to put out on that curb and not be heartbroken by. I think it's terribly fascinating. Anyway. And so the skyscrapers, the artificial intelligence, I have to tell you, it fascinates me and it terrifies me. I use it. I used it. So once my outline is created, I also use it to proofread all my stuff. I put everything in there and I go, okay, proofread, boom. And it'll show me, hey, punctuation should be here. Spelling of this, do you mean this? Or, whatever. And it helps me out there. Sometimes it's completely wrong. I don't trust it. In all cases, I always double and triple verify. Okay, that's true. But AI can be this amazing thing for medicine. It can be incredible. I think AI for a lot of things can be incredible, but it can also be just like right now, right? We're using the internet. We're redeeming the internet for good. Now, if YouTube demonetizes this video and they throttle this video, guess what happens? People don't get to see it. That's why I always encourage people, go over to our Rumble. Go to our Rumble, click on follow. There it's called follow. Click on follow and click on the bell for all notifications. And it'll even tell you when I'm going to go live. Why? Because YouTube hates religion. I had a guy tell me point blank. I finally got through. Hey, why do you keep rejecting my ads? Well, you talk about Jesus too much. Literally what he said. Miss Colleen was right there. Had her on speakerphone. That's what the guy said. All of these things, the skyscrapers, the digital networks, the advanced empires of technology and AI, all these things, each is a tower in its own way, a human attempt to reach heaven without God. Hey, I'm smart enough. I don't need God. And this is what I think was amazing about Charlie Kirk's life. By the way, they've refused to monetize and allow me to promote any of the Charlie Kirk videos. Now, you would think that YouTube would stop doing that mess since they got caught. Now, they're saying, well, the government, Biden's government, who was forcing us to, we had to do it. By the way, what are you having for lunch? Lunch break. You know what I always love? I always love a good ham sandwich with mayonnaise, maybe a piece of good cheese on there, and, some shredded lettuce, a good tomato, if you can get a good tomato. And what else do I put on there? Sometimes pickles, but plenty of ham, a decent amount of cheese. Don't go light on the mayo, but don't make it drown it. Don't drown it in the mayo. And I hate to say this, but I like good bread. But even if all I got is Wonder Bread, I'll take it. I like it. That's just a good lunch sandwich when you ready to go back to work. Anyway, so now I'm curious about what everybody's eating. None of my business. You don't have to tell me. So now what I'm about to tell you is something that for me was a huge discovery. And I went through this whole big thing, and I talk a little bit about it in my extended testimony when I'm asked to come and make a speech about my testimony. How did I get here? What was my life like? What did I do? All that stuff. One of the things that I talk about is in, I think it was 2004, Masters International University of Divinity, used to be Masters Graduate School of Divinity and School of Divinity, which I went to and graduated from. Anyway, when I went there, I encountered this guy by the name of Dr. Skip Moen. And all of my professors were amazing. The founder of Masters was amazing, founder and president at that time. He's the president emeritus now. Pray for him. He's had a massive stroke, Dr. Dennis Fry and Dr. Frazier, amazing people. And all of my professors, all of the ones, love them dearly. But the one that really twisted my brain more than anything, made it just a life-changing, a faith-changing experience was Dr. Skip Moen. And if you research him, he's a PhD, Oxford PhD. He's studied at L'Abri under Francis Schaeffer. His approach is very different. And I had never encountered that, not in my entire life. So it presented a very, very tricky change for me in my life, in my faith. It would have been very, I had a radio show, and it would have been very much easier to continue teaching and preaching as I did, because then I don't have to change. I don't have to go back and say, hey, wait a second, I've been teaching this because this is what I was taught. But now there's this other thing and this other ideology that I really have to share with you. And really it breaks down to the Hebraic worldview, ancient Near Eastern languages, culture, and context understanding. So the report is pinto beans with Cajun sausage and ham over rice. I bet there's a good little gravy to it too. Yum. That sounds good. Not gonna lie. Sounds good. All right. Now I want some of that. Anyway, so scattering is mercy. This was something that never occurred to me until I encountered that teaching. The scattering of nations wasn't merely wrath. It wasn't merely God's wrath. In many respects, it was protection. I understand it's just hard to picture, right? It was protection. A united world in rebellion would have birthed tyranny centuries earlier. So the scattering slowed the spread of evil. Even now, when nations centralize power apart from God, the spirit of Babel rises again. We see the evil. And look, I operated out of Russia, and I can tell you that the Russian people, by and large, don't want their government. They can't say anything because they get unalived. They get put in the gulag. Yes, they still exist. Or they get unalived. Or they get tortured. Their family disappears. The family loses their home, their jobs, everything. But the people of Russia are lovely people. Same as the people of China. Amazing, lovely people. Really lovely people. And I'll tell you where else. It will shock you to hear this. Iran, the Persian people, their government is horrific. They're murderers. They're religious nut jobs. The last caliphate, if you will. They want to bring it about. They want to destroy the world. Why do they want nuclear power? Because they want to blow the world up. First, they're going to blow up Israel, and then they're going to blow us up in the United States of America. Now, you can debate it all you want. I'm telling you, that's 100% true blue fact. That's reality. And all of those nations, China and Russia and Iran and Hamas and PLO and all of the others. There's a bunch that are all kind of working together. This is a centralization. This is a ziggurat. This is a gathering, a joining that is really dangerous. So the gospel reverses Babel. At Pentecost, the confusion of the languages were reversed. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, right? Can't understand the New Testament until you understand the Old Testament. Language, culture, and context. So at Pentecost, and when I wrote my book, True Word Faith for Life, when I wrote my book, that's the viewpoint that I did it from. And that's why I wanted to explain to people, hey, here's every book of the Bible, who the author was, where they were coming from, who the audience was, and why did the author say what he said, what was going on. Language, culture, and context. What was happening? We have to understand that in order to understand what the message is. So, but the gospel at Pentecost, again, don't know if you've ever thought of it, but maybe you'll think of it now. At Pentecost, the confusion of the languages is totally reversed. Each one heard them speaking in his own language, right? So there were many, many different languages represented there, and the preaching was done, and all of a sudden, those preaching could preach languages they didn't know, they'd never learned. And the people there could understand them. And this is the whole speaking in tongues. This is some of what is derived from this. You can debate it all you want. If you're a tongue speaker, good on you. I've done extensive teaching on it. It's all free of charge. So Each one heard them speaking in his own language. Acts 2:6. So where Babel divided, Messiah gathered. Where confusion reigned, the Spirit brings understanding. And Revelation 21:24 gives us the final picture. By its light will nations walk, and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. So scattered nations, they find redemption. Now again, what's in it for me? Personal, what's in it for me? Babel confronts us personally. Where am I building my own name instead of exalting God's? Where am I trying to control outcomes instead of trusting his covenant? Am I living for my own tower or for his kingdom? You know, Charlie Kirk, at the age of 18, I met him when he was 19. And you know, how and where we met was totally chance. And he was an unbelievable. And I said to him then, I said the same that President Trump said to him when I shook his hand. I said, and I had just heard him speak. First of all, he was 6'5". He's a big guy. He was very athletic. You could see that he was athletic. And he had this big smile, this beautiful face, and great hair, and just a warmth, a kindness, a compassion, a love that just it emanated from him. Anyway, I shook his hand and I said, hey, one day you're going to be president, right? One day you're going to be president. And he laughed and he said, well, I hope I can get your vote. You know, it's kind of a joke, thumbs up. And he was never trying to build his own name. You knew who Turning Point USA was before you knew who Charlie Kirk was. Even as famous as he was, traveling around and, you know, doing all the things he was doing, he was building God's kingdom. He never exalted his own name ahead of God. And he never trusted to himself outcomes beyond what he could do here on the earth. He said, the rest is up to God. I have to hand it to him for that. What am I trying to control? Instead of trusting God, what am I trying to control? Listen, you know, look at all the evangelists per se, the preachers per se, never got a single convert. Yet God was very pleased with them. Why? Because the results are up to God. Well, it's up to us. We got to do it right. We got to be right in how we do the things that we do. We have to be practiced and we have to study and all of these things. We have to do all of these things in order to be where we are and what we're doing. By the way, I appreciate everybody sending me questions and wanting to know, am I all right? It's not too bad. People saying, your face is swollen. Why's your face swollen? You all right? I got stung by a bee yesterday too, by the way. I'm deathly allergic to bees. Thank the Lord. It was a wasp. Thank you to Bug in the Rug. They don't know I'm saying this, but they came back out. They had just taken the nest down probably, 4 or 5 weeks ago. And, I have these little tree frogs. I don't ever want anything hurt around where I live. And I'm normally very pro-bee, but these wasps, man, when they hit you, it's like, not fun. And I'm so allergic. If it's the wrong kind of bee, Shawner's a goner. Anyway, so I got hit by this bee sting, picking up a package off my own front porch. So I had to call them, and they came out. They took care of it. Thank God. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, one of the guys just called and checked on me. He said, hey, how you feeling? They came out this morning and took care of it. Two really great guys. Anyway, I had this little tree frog about 5 inches from there, and I didn't want it hurt. Thank the Lord it was going this morning. So I try to keep the whole little lizards and little frogs. This has nothing to do with the sermon, by the way. But I try to take care of the stuff that's around here. I want it to last. And I want bees to be well. We need honey, we need pollination, or we'll die as a people. I get it, but I cannot get stung. Boy, I get stung. My dad was so deathly allergic, he had to be rushed to the hospital many times. And he couldn't take the shot. He couldn't take the shot. For years, I took the shot, the epinephrine. I can't take it now because, of course, I'm a heart patient. And anyway, bunch of other stuff. All that said to say this. Which tower are we living for? Are we living for my own tower? I know I was. For a very long time. I had whole books of the Bible memorized. I could recite them without ever looking. I could quote scriptures cross references, all of those things. No struggle at all. Easy peasy. I could learn languages quick, very easily. No effort. If I wanted to learn it, I learned it. And I learned it at the indigenous level, what CIA calls proficiency level 5. No problem. Till I got hurt. Everything changed. I was living for my own tower. Maybe I knew it. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. Subconsciously, maybe I did. So the timeless lesson here, look, it all boils down to this. From an ancient Near Eastern perspective, Babel was humanity's attempt to manipulate heaven and exalt self. From a modern perspective, it's the ever-present warning against pride, empire, and control apart from God. Now, I'm not talking about pride and, your appearance, taking care of yourself, looking good. My dear friend is my barber, and she trims me all up, takes good care of me, and makes it look as good as it can. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? God bless her. It's probably a pity thing. Oh, Lord Jesus, help this boy. He's such a mess. I'm going to do Lord's work if I can just help him some. I mean, that's all they can do. It's all anybody can do. But the thing is, we take pride. We take pride in our home. We take pride in our car. Keep a car looking nice. I never have understood. Buy a $40,000, $50,000 car, and then you don't ever wash it. You barely ever get the oil change. You don't ever, it's just beat up and it's trash all up in it. It's a $50,000 car or more. I see that and I'm just stunned. But hey, it's your car. You do with it what you will. But a little pride, take a little pride in it. A little pride in, hygiene, looking good, smelling good. I always like to smell good. I can't do anything more about the looking good part. That ship has sailed. But I can smell good. I can be clean. I can wear clean clothes. But pride, empire, and control apart from God, it's nothing. I'm gonna lay these on you, and you might want to write these down if you're not driving. Babel scatters, covenant gathers. Man exalts his own name. God exalts the name of those who belong to him. Friends, the Word of God, it's alive with covenant truth, with covenant truth, with covenant truth. I'd love for you to go deeper with me. TrueWordFaithForLife.com. You can find my book, Resources to Strengthen Your Walk as a Follower of Light. As always, I have a challenge and a choice for you today. Here's the challenge. Where are you building the towers in your life? I'm not against any of these things in and of themselves. A tower of career where identity rests on success. Listen, if you're a young girl, a young woman, and you're trying to figure out what kind of guy you're looking for, you say, look, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to be an excellent stay-at-home wife and mother. I want to take care of the house. I want to take care of my children and raise them right and teach them right. And that's something that's very important to you. Hey, you got to be smart about who you look for as a husband. If you're looking for and settling for a dullard, guy won't get out of his own way. He can't earn enough to feed and clothe himself, let alone a family. Well, you got to move on. That guy's not going to be able to provide that for you. If that's what's important to you, look, you have to find somebody like that. And if you're a guy who says, hey, I want to have a different kind of family. I want to have a traditional family. I want my wife to, I want the kind of wife that wants to stay at home and teach our children. I'm not saying I don't want her to be educated. I'm not saying I don't want to be smart. You know what? I'm not saying I want to be a tyrant in the home. But I want somebody that wants to do that. Look, I honor that. Being a stay-at-home mom, boy, I can't imagine. I don't know how my mother did it with 5. I really don't. I'm the youngest of 5. Did you know I was 2.6 pounds when I was born? 2.5 months premature. Tiny. I swole up. Anyway, look, if that's what you want, that's what you need to look for. If you're a young lady, that's what you need to look for. Young man, if you want that kind of family, you got to be the kind of guy who gets out and hustles. You got to pay the bills. You got to be willing to live under and below your means. You've got to. You can't be running around in every new car. You can't be running around with every fancy thing in the house. You can't be demoing everything, paying people to come in there and I got to have the latest. Oh, Granite is out now. Well, I got to have this. Look, if you can afford it, great. But if this is what you want this type of family, well, you got to get out and hustle. You got to work hard. Make it count. You better make it count while you're out there. Do good work. Don't be lazy. You got a family at home depending on you. Lazy cobblers' kids have bad shoes. But a tower of career, if you make your career everything, your career is everything. Everything else doesn't matter. The career is everything, everything, everything. Where your identity rests on your successes. That's your identity. And apart from that, you're nobody. I know tier 1 operators. I know intimately. I know police officers, very closely, who that's their whole identity. I was in the military and I was a police officer, and I can just tell you, you can't let that be your whole identity. You can't. You have to have balance. But then there's this tower in family where control replaced trust. I mentioned it just a second ago. Look, if you're a guy and you say, look, I'm looking for a woman who wants to be a stay-at-home mom. Maybe she works from home. I don't know. Maybe you need 2 incomes. Nowadays, it's tragic to me that you have to have 2 incomes just to barely make it. But I know people that are doing it right now. They have big families, and they're doing it. Now, if they want to paint the inside of their house, guess what they do? They paint it themselves. Does it look like the pros? Maybe not. Sometimes it does. Sometimes I'm stunned. But you got to work it out. You got to say, okay, I got to do some of this stuff myself. Maybe we have to wait till the babies go to bed. And, because they would want to touch paint and whatnot. You tape it out and do all your stuff and get her done, get her painted so it's dry in the morning. Hey, I get it. Super hard. Maybe you got to go to YouTube University or Rumble University and learn how to fix stuff. You got to save money. You can't have a bunch of people coming in paying all kinds of money. Now, they deserve the money they get. But, maybe you don't get so many dogs if you can't pay for the dogs or the cats. You got to be thoughtful about that. Hey, man, just like another child, they eat. They have medical conditions, things that come up. It's a cost. You got to realize that. But here's the thing. And I'm going to say this as delicately but truthfully as I can. You can't be a tyrant in your family. You have to be a leader, but you can't be a tyrant. You have to be a team with your wife. You have to be an unshakable team. That's just the facts. I mean, you will not succeed. You will not represent what we're called to represent if you're not. If you're constantly at odds with your spouse, listen, if you're dating and you're constantly at odds with the person you're dating, and you're fussing at each other all the time, you're disagreeing all the time, my friends, you're with the wrong person. Doesn't mean you're going to be with somebody that agrees with everything you say. But control can't replace trust. You've got to be with somebody that you're in agreement. And maybe, and this is usually the case. Usually the spouse is 1,000 times smarter than the dude. The wife is smarter than the dude. And sometimes we just got to listen a little bit and go, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why didn't I think of that? Trust. Stop thinking you know everything. You don't need to know everything. Seek wise counsel. Have friends that are smart. Elevate your friendship relationships. There's got to be a leader. And you can co-lead this thing. But there's got to be a leader. There's got to be an accountable person that says, okay, this falls to me. Remember, I talked about that tower of career. Listen, sometimes, man, you got to make the sacrifices. And if you're the spouse at home, you've got to make it so that person can make those sacrifices and work those long hours to make the money to be able to pay. Now, I'm not talking about making the money to be able to pay for boats and for club memberships and all those things and 1 million trips a year. I'm talking about being able to cover the costs of living and raising children with a stay-at-home life. That's what I'm talking about. This is not politically correct stuff. But I understand if you tune out and you go, hey, I can't listen to this guy. But guys, you can't be a tyrant. You can't be in the home being a tyrant. It isn't about control. Then there's this tower of religion. I know it's a shocker. The tower of religion where rituals manipulate rather than submit to God. We seek to manipulate God with all of our ritualistic things. And we say, well, and let me tether that really quick with, that guy I was telling you about, stayed home. He wants a stay-at-home wife. His wife wants to be a stay-at-home wife and mother. They got together and they agreed on their faith, and they agreed on and what they wanted for their future. And yes, this is what I want. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. If she says, hey, look, I'm studying to be a lawyer, and I want to be a mom one day, but here's the thing, I'm going to be a lawyer for a while. Right? I'm going to practice law. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a this. I want to be a that, And maybe she's not an incredible mom. Maybe she doesn't have incredible patience. Remember, the mom thing maybe is not in her. Maybe the dad. He's just a great dad. I'm thinking of somebody right now. He is an amazing dad. And the mom will tell you, hey, man, I go to work, I come home, I do my kids' things, and I try to participate and contribute. But the fact of the matter is that dude right there, that dude is who really raised our children. And he did a great job. And he worked, and he did all those things. My point is this, this whole big push for I have no identity outside of my career and my job. Man, oh man, raising babies. Oh my lands, folks. And I think if you can have a stay-at-home job or a remote, job, you work remotely, and you still raise your children and give what's right to your employer, and you raise your children well, and you work as a team, and you spell each other. I love watching my daughter and my son-in-law work together. They tag team, tap in, tap out, and they have the two, and it's a constant, whoa, man, is it moving. I can't imagine my mom. I don't know how she did it. I really don't. It's amazing to me. But then there's this tower of religion where maybe, you're trying to serve. You're always serving. You're always there at the church, and that you're at work, 40 to 60 hours a week. And then you go straight from your job and you go to the church and you clean the bathrooms because nobody wants dirty bathrooms. They won't come back. In there cleaning the nursery and the children's classrooms because, if it smells bad and it looks bad and there's a bunch of spiders running around, they're not going to come back. The visitors aren't coming back. Nor should they. But you're the only one that volunteers, so you're killing yourself. Listen, that's a tower of religion. I'm sorry to tell you, it's a tower of religion. It has to be balanced. Pastors, you have to be leaders. And getting up there on Sunday and saying, hey, folks, it's the same 4 people that keep volunteering. If we're going to do this thing, we got to have more people volunteer and come through. It's not fair to these people. Anyway. Here's the choice. Will you live scattered in pride or gathered in covenant? That's the choice. Will you live scattered in pride or gathered in covenant? Will your life proclaim your name, or will it proclaim his? Now, I have to go to the cancer center, the Zimmer Cancer Center. They're wonderful people. And I had an appointment there with my hematologist there. And I remember looking up the Zimmer. Okay. I like to figure out, okay, who's the family behind this? And I looked, and there, sure enough, there it is. And they talk all about the family. And I looked up on my little device, learned all about them. Man, what a sacrifice. They gave so much money. No wonder it's called the Zimmer Cancer Center, right over at Novant in Wilmington, North Carolina. Amazing the sacrifices. And then one of the doctors in the cancer center is a Zimmer. How about that? Their name is on the building, the Zimmer Cancer Center. The sacrifices they made and the gifts that they gave and all of those things. Yes, they proclaim the generosity of that family and of the matriarch and patriarch of that family. But they worked well. They did good work. They did good things. And now it's blessing many, many people. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if I don't achieve this, I'm going to be nobody. If I don't do this or that, I'm going to be nobody. I'm not worth anything if I don't do it. Listen, I want to I want to say this. Maybe you're listening to this and you don't understand. You're like, I just don't get it. I'm curious about faith. There's parts of it I don't get. I don't fully understand. But I know this. I do believe that God created the heavens and the earth, and we were perfect, and then all of a sudden we're not anymore. And I just talked about in the garden, the truth about the Garden of Eden, and at the beginning of this, I talked about Adam and Eve. Her name wasn't Eve, but whatever. Listen to that; it's free. It's a few weeks ago. But I talked about, all of the things I believe in this, and I believe that God sent his son, to account for my sins, to be a sacrifice for my sins. And just as prophecy had said, he came, he lived 33 perfect years, and then he was murdered. But he didn't stay in the grave. He rose again. I believe that. If you believe that, we can work on all the other stuff. I can teach you all the other stuff, and I will. But if you say, look, I believe in Jesus, I believe in Yeshua. If you're tired of running and you're ready to put your trust and your faith and turn your life over to Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, right now, pray with me. You don't have to close your eyes. I'll explain what that's all about. Pray with me from your heart. Believe this and pray. Father in heaven, I come to you with humility and faith. I admit that I have sinned and I have hurts, habits, and hang-ups, and I've fallen short of your glory, just as your word says in Romans 3:23. I turn from my sins and I return to you. I believe that Jesus the Messiah is the promised Savior, the Son of the living God. I believe he died for my sins, was buried, and rose again on the third day, just as the scriptures say in Isaiah 53, Psalm 22, and 1 Corinthians 15:3 and 4. Let me say this. This prayer is under the blog, truewordfaithfullife.com. Don't freak out. Don't panic. And I can help you. If you reach out to me, I'll pray it with you. I can't tell you how many times I've done it. I'd be happy to do it with you. Your word promises in Joel 2:32 and Romans 10:13 that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Everyone, including me. Look, if he has saved me, he saved you. He'll save you. If he'll save somebody like me, trust me. And then you pray, today I call on your name. Forgive me. Cleanse me, make me new. Fill me with your Holy Spirit. And from this day forward, I will follow Jesus as my Lord, my Redeemer, and my King. Thank you for saving me, for making me part of your family, and for giving me eternal life. In the name of Jesus, the Messiah, the King of Kings, I pray. Amen. And look, if you prayed that prayer with me just now, you have made the most important decision of your lifetime. I want to welcome you to the family of God. This is the most important decision you'll ever make in your life, and you don't have to walk this road alone. I've helped so many take their first steps as followers of Jesus, and I would be honored, literally, to walk with you as well. So if you reach out to me through truewordfaithfullife.com, truewordfaithfullife.com under contact, we got a little microphone down in the lower right. That's 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes. They're your 2 minutes. Make them count. Nobody hears that message but me. But if you go under contact, you can type it out. But you have to leave me a way to get back in touch with you, or maybe several different ways. And as soon as I receive that message, I will call you. I will contact you. I'll email you, text you, however you say. And I'm happy to do it. I promise I will personally connect with you. I'll help guide you in your next steps, whether this is learning Scripture more deeply, finding a community of believers through church. I've helped so many. I'm happy to help you. Or maybe it's just growing day by day in faith. Look, you're not alone. Let me walk with you along the way. Now look, the Tower of Babel teaches us this. Pride scatters, covenant gathers. Human towers crumble, but God's covenant endures. Out of confusion, he calls. Out of scattering, he gathers. Out of rebellion, he redeems. So live not to exalt your own name, but his. Live not in Babel, but in covenant. Until Sunday, depending on the storm. Look, if you live anywhere near, come see. Come check us out. Get a hold of me on Sunday early. I'll let you know. Look, are we meeting or are we prepping for a hurricane? Because the hurricanes, there's two of them. It's a rarity. There's two of them coming bearing right down at us. Depending on what they do, it could be something that So 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be there preaching live on the perilous times, 2 Timothy 3. And then at 3 p.m., Lord willing, Eastern Standard Time, I'll be here. And I would love, love, love to meet you in person. If not, we'd love to see you on Sunday at 3. In the meantime, shalom, 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 b'shem Yeshua.